Chapter 21.
"What is he doing here?" Cassie asked in a low, frightened whisper.
I guess he just came to oversee this trip. Maybe it was because they let that guy get away.
"He's here to kick butt on his boys," Marco said, trying to sound tough. "They screwed up, and now he's here to make sure they don't do it again."
It doesn't really matter why he's here,
I pointed out.
He's here, and there are extra Hork-Bajir, and the whole crowd is way nervous. One of the Hork-Bajir drakened a deer that just happened to be walking by.
"A deer?" Cassie cried. "Those stupid jerks. Deer never hurt anyone."
The plan was for you to sneak down to the water, morph as soon as you got there, and head out for the ship's water intake pipe, I reminded them. It was always a dangerous plan, but now it's impossible. 4 of you walking down to the water, then morphing? That's not going to happen. Not as alert as these guys are now.
"Not with Visor 3 hanging around," Marco agreed. "I disagree." It was Rachel. "I think we should still try this. Look, if we pull this off, if we manage to get inside that ship and disable the cloaking device while they're over the city, this whole thing will be over." Jake jumped in to support her. "We've always said, if there was just some way to show the world what was happening, well, this is the way. This would be way too big for the controllers to cover up. I don't care who they are. Even if the mayor and the governor and the entire police force were controllers, they couldn't cover up something like this."
Jake, you're not listening. I'm telling you, there is no way you 4 can cruise down to the lake. You'll be dead before you take 5 steps.
For a while, no one spoke. It was Cassie who finally broke the silence. "There may be a way," she said. "See, a fish can survive out of water for a couple of minutes, and the fish we're morphing is small." She looked at me. "Small enough for a red-tailed hawk to carry." Well, that idea got everyone's attention, I can tell you. "Excuse me?" Marco shrilled. "Are you saying you want me to not just morph into a fish, but morph into a fish out of water and then be carried through the air by a bird?" Cassie bit her lip. "I'm just saying it could work." "It would work," Jake said. He and Rachel exchanged a slightly insane look that said, "Okay, let's try it."
No way,
I said.
You guys are crazy. No offense, but this raises the danger level way beyond what it was to start with.
"I know it's dangerous," Jake said, "but we may never get a chance this good." Marco whined, I argued, but in the end, it was 3 against 2. Besides, Jake was right. We had a chance to seriously mess up the Yeerks. I have watched Marco morph into a gorilla, Rachel become an elephant and a shrew and a cat, Cassie become a horse, and Jake become a tiger and a flea. Man, was that weird. But this was the first time anyone had tried morphing into an animal that lived in water. Cassie insisted on going first. "It was my idea," she pointed out. She did not point out that she was also the best morpher. "If you feel like you're suffocating, you have to back out of the morph," Jake told her. He took her hand. "Are you listening to me? You have to back out if it gets bad. You can't pass out halfway into a morph." Cassie smiled. "I will. Don't worry about me." She closed her eyes and began to concentrate. I've told you that Cassie is always the best at controlling a morph. She has an almost artistic talent, where she can make it all look kind of cool, and not so gross. But not this time. As I watched, her hair disappeared completely. Her skin began to harden, like it was coated with varnish or something, like she had been dipped in clear plastic. Her eyes swung around to the side of her head. Her face bulged out into a huge mouth that gaped and seemed to be blowing invisible bubbles. As this happened, she was shrinking, but not fast enough. I could still see every nightmare change in her body, the way her legs shriveled up, smaller and smaller, till her legless body fell to the ground. From her lower back, her body stretched out, elongated. "Oh!" Rachel cried. A tail had just suddenly spurted from Cassie's behind. A fishtail. Now, her varnished-looking skin cracked and split into a million scales. Her ears were gone. Her arms were shriveling. She was no more than 2 feet long, lying helpless, a monster on the floor of the cave.
So far, I'm fine,
She said, but her thought speech was shaky.
Still breathing with my lungs.
But at that moment, 2 slits appeared in her neck. Gills.
Ah!
She cried. "Cassie, pull out of it!" Jake cried in an urgent whisper.
No. Almost done. Tobias. I'm ready,
I said grimly. She was tiny now, less than a foot long. All that was left of her human body were 2 very tiny doll hands. They made little fins. Cassie flopped wildly. Her mouth gasped silently. "Go!" Jake said. I closed careful talons around Cassie's squirming fish body, aimed for the small sliver of sky that I could see through the cave's opening, and flapped my powerful wings. I burst out of the cave into fresh air.
Are you okay, Cassie? Fish mind. Panicky. Water now. Hang in there. You've been through this before. You know how it is when you first go into a morph. You have to get control of the fish's instincts. Water. I can't breathe.
I was about 10 feet up, racing for the water's edge. Suddenly, below me, a hork-bajur. He looked up and saw me, a bird with a fish in his talons. I doubted the hork-bajur would realize that redtails don't catch fish. At least, I hoped he wouldn't. I swooped down over the water. The huge Yerk ship was just lowering its intake pipes into the water. I dropped behind a stand of trees that hugged the shoreline. Get ready, I warned Cassie. I let her go like one of those old World War II planes dropping its torpedo. She hit the water with a small splash.
Are you all right?
No answer.
Cassie, I said, are you all right? Yeah,
she said at last.
I'm here. Are you dealing with the fish okay?
Again, no answer. Then,
whoa, cool. I'm underwater.
I relaxed.
Yes, you sure are underwater,
I said with a laugh.
I was scared,
she admitted.
I know this sounds crazy, but I just keep seeing myself. Fried, with a wedge of lemon and some tartar sauce.